welcome back to another episode of Two Poets, the podcast where we talk about all things creative and we challenge each other to see who's the better writer.
The better writer? Oh man, I didn't know it was a competition.
Oh, I thought we were gonna have like audience, like
that's gonna
vote
suck.
who's the better writer.
No, you're hands down gonna win that. That's not cool.
Sorry, wrong show then. Welcome to Two Poets Podcast, where we discuss creativity and don't compete against each other in our writing. Each week we get a prompt from you, the listener, and we decide to try to write a poem or a short story, and that's kind of what we come up with. But we're excited. This is episode 2.
Episode 2.
This is where the fun begins. Yeah. This is where the fun begins, and we decide if we want to keep doing this forever.
Yes. I'd do it. I'd keep doing it, even if the episode sucked. I'd keep doing it. I'd just like hanging out.
Yeah, we'll stop posting them online and just, send audio to each other.
Do it for ourselves.
Yeah. Well, what have you been up to this week, Ben?
Not a lot. I've been getting cars fixed, actually.
Ooh.
It's going through the car phase.
Yeah.
One car has a problem, then the next car has a problem. Maybe that should be a prompt at some point. It's car issues.
Car trouble is going to be a prompt, probably.
But that's basically it. My wife and I have our 7th anniversary coming up. So we are super excited about taking some time to just get away and spend with each other.
Nice.
And I think that's probably the biggest thing on my mind right now.
Yeah.
It's just anniversary trip.
Nice. Where are you guys heading?
We don't know.
Hey, perfect.
We got to get the car fixed first.
That thing where you spin the globe, point your finger at it.
I would love that. We were talking the other day about doing the Google search where you let Google flights just pick the destination for you. Mm-hmm. So we may get to that point at some point in our marriage, but
that'd be fun.
That's definitely on the agenda.
How hilarious would it be if you do the whole globe thing and then you like stop and point and it's like Texas.
Tulsa. Oh, okay. That's so funny.
We wanted somewhere exotic.
That would probably be it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, go to Mexico. It's just right down south.
Nice. Well, I mean, this week, let's see, what have you
been doing
this
man?
week?
You're always busy.
Yeah, just working on. So what I do for my day job is I basically build mobile art installations at a company called Itinerant Immersive. So I get to build weird things all day. This week I've been basically building out a trailer that we're converting into a spaceship. So it's really weird, really awesome. And so we've just been working on that and did some landscaping, and it's been a pretty interesting week so far.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm so excited for that. I can't wait for that. I'm really happy to be part of that too, because we'll have installations that we add to that, and I'm really excited. So.
Yeah, just getting to do all this crazy art stuff is amazing. Yeah, and also it's been stupid windy this week.
Dude, it was bad. Like 2 days in a row, like hurricane winds almost.
And I hate it.
And hail.
Yeah, and we also had 6 tornadoes touch down last night seriously. Around us.
Yeah.
I mean, not in our town, but within hours. Yeah.
It gets pretty brutal. It blew the siding off my dad's house.
Really?
Yeah, he was out. He told me he was out at 2 or 3 in the morning trying to nail siding back on so it didn't rip the rest of it off.
And is he here in Enid?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was bad. He's like, it was 50, 60 mile an hour and I'm on a ladder and it's pitch black. And I'm like, Dad, come on. Let it go.
Yeah. Just let the siding
let it go.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of my least favorite weather conditions is obviously here in Oklahoma, where it's hot and windy on the same day.
Ugh, it's the worst.
And it's not even like a cooling wind. It's just like you're in a microwave or a convection oven or something where the heat's just rotating in there. And it's the worst.
It's just stagnant. It's like stagnant wind, if that's a thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't help anything.
No, it's the worst.
It's like a giant convection oven.
Yeah, I told my wife the other day, I was like, do we still have to live in Oklahoma? Could we just go somewhere where it's cool all the time?
Why are we still here?
Well, we're still here because there's still cool stuff to do in Oklahoma.
There is. And we're doing a podcast, so
we can't really leave. So
that's
a good reason. Yeah, we can't do this anywhere else. It has to be.
It has to be here.
We can't do this remotely over the internet. Yeah, no. Yeah, podcast, you have to be in a physical location.
We could,
that's how it works,
but
right?
It just wouldn't be as fun.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I heard you can do it over Zoom now.
We could do that. That would be kind of weird, though.
Yeah.
I don't know what that would be like.
Well, listeners, you'll find out if we stay in Oklahoma or not.
We'll find out.
Yeah, so.
We'll keep you in suspense.
So I'm super excited about this second episode. You know why?
Why?
Because we actually get to put our creativity to the test with the prompt that was given to us last week to be able to write something. So were you nervous about writing it for this week?
No, it's stressful when you have to write. And so it took me a little bit to get my head in the game. Like my thing is like, I didn't start trying to write until I had like some like starting point. And then I think on Saturday I sat down and just kind of wrote and then kind of fleshed it out.
Nice.
And so I was done by like Saturday evening, I think.
Okay.
So it wasn't bad. But I can't just like sit down and say, I'm going to write and then force something out. I have to have like a starting line or direction or something.
Yeah, go off that, yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't bad. It worked out pretty good.
Good. Yeah, I kind of got super busy over the weekend with editing and stuff and some other work projects. So probably was Monday when I got started on it.
Yeah. Wow.
And at first I was like sitting in front of the screen, kind of the same thing. It's hard when you're forced to write something because then it's like there's either pressure or it's like I just don't know what to write, you know. But no, luckily it kind of came out pretty well and flowed. Finished half of it on Monday, and then sometimes I have to tell myself to just stop, so I'm not trying to just throw out random crap. Sometimes I feel like you kind of have to, but not this time. And then I finished it the next day. But I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Good. Yeah. I'm feeling pretty good too. Did you like go all in and try to like add measure and rhyme scheme and all that, or were you just free versing it?
So I did mainly free versing, and I threw a little bit of some rhyme scheme in there.
Okay.
I kind of wanted this one to just be kind of just like a free flow type thing, but I did throw some like cadence stuff in there. So
okay. Awesome.
We'll see.
Dude,
we'll see if I remember to say those parts right.
Remember the cadence. I can't wait to hear it, man. I'm excited.
Yeah. So what was our prompt again? It was the power of language or the act of writing. Now, obviously, I took some liberties with mine.
Cool. Okay.
So it's gonna have. I'll let you see if you can kind of. When I read mine, you're gonna have to tell me if you get the gist of what's kind of behind it.
Okay.
So I'm excited.
Sounds
to see
good.
That. Yeah. Should we just jump into these poems?
Do you want to read yours first?
Yeah, I'll totally read mine first. So, listeners, this is kind of what we're gonna do every week as we get the prompt. We are going to write a poem or a short story, and then we will come back on the show and read it. Probably one of the first things we do on the episode. And then we're going to discuss kind of our thoughts behind why we wrote what we wrote. Obviously, we have a prompt, but we all have our own, ways of how we go about writing and stuff. And so we'll kind of talk about our process and what our inspiration was. So, yeah. All right.
Let's
I'm going first. Let me see if I can not hit my microphone while I read this. What did I call this? Oh, I called it Her Story.
Sweet.
Or if you're from the South, you can put the two words together, herstory. This is my herstory of my family. No, her story. All right, here we go. Dim the lights, set the music. No, I'm just kidding. All right. A ghost haunts this dwelling. I can feel her. A touch moving down my arm as I begin to see visions of her beauty. I'm desperately asking, who is she? Because to me, I shouldn't be experiencing this out-of-body phenomenon of wonder and fear intertwined. Yet here I am, gazing into an empty room with nothing that adorns the walls. A familiar feeling of what used to be like a fleeting dream with memories on the edge of making out the shapes. Her smell is so familiar. Have we met before? I don't know who she is or if she has ever existed, but I don't want to miss this. Because from this distance, I might make it to the end or be gone myself. I can hear the turning of pages above me, and the smell of ink fills the air. Something is scratching the surface. A new world appears on the horizon that was not there before, and there she is. The ink that covers her body begins to throw itself off, starting from her head to the hills of her olive feet. A new life fills her spirit, and I can feel it. Letters carried by the wind begin to form words around her. Victoria. The letters spell Victoria. For the next, what feels like days, I watch Victoria. New words form to describe her, but they can't seem to accurately describe the beauty I see before me. I feel like a stranger watching from the outside. I take a step forward, but can't seem to move. I hear a voice in the distance. Your story ended, it says. You don't move further. You hurt her. You aren't found in any other chapter, I'm sorry. I hurt her? How could I hurt someone I have just seen? But yet, she is somehow familiar. Did I love her once? The world turns dark. My memories begin to fade as the world around me crumbles down. I am being erased. I take one last glance in her direction. She looks so happy. I am filled with peace. I will never forget you. You will always be my, you are, I can't remember her name.
Dang.
The end.
Dude. Such good imagery in there. Like good poetry and good like cadence to that, because I can totally hear your cadence in that. Mm-hmm. Also just good like storytelling.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, like well done. Good
Thank
job.
you very much. Maybe you should read yours before
Well, that's it. I don't want to
into-
read my poem now. Thank you. Let's go home.
I'll explain how that ties into our prompt when it
Yes.
gets to it. But I think,
Okay.
Ben, you should read yours first, and then we'll kind of both describe and kind of talk about our writing stuff. So
Mine is pretty straightforward. It's the love-hate relationship of just writing in general. And I actually, now that I look at it, I don't have a title.
Ooh.
I never actually made a title. So
It's too good to be titled.
too good. I had it in my notes as episode 2 poem.
So nice. Perfect.
I'll have to go back and give it a title at some point. Okay. This is my episode 2 poem. I stare at the pale screen. I've been here so long my eyes hurt. The cursor blinks relentlessly, in beat with my pounding head, in sync with my lungs, rapid inflation, deflation, the blood pumping through my heart. I feel like crying, passing out, giving up. I need a break or an escape. Coffee. I need coffee. I call myself a writer, yet never seem to miss an opportunity to escape, to walk out on my love for the craft, to cheat, spend time doing something else, anything, somewhere else, anywhere. If I stood my wife up as much as my art, I wouldn't be married today. She would have left me long ago. But I guess that's the beauty of this relationship. No matter how many times I forget, grow tired, want to leave, to quit, cheat, abuse or insult, tear down, writing always takes me back. Art is all enduring, forgiving, unconditional, despite the truth that all poets are unfaithful. The real battle isn't coming to terms with the fact that I actually sometimes don't like to write. It's coming to grips with the truth that I actually sometimes don't like myself, or at least this aspect of myself. For all poets are inwardly loathsome, fully recognizing their innermost depravity. I'd rather be anywhere than here, reflecting in this soul mirror, attempting to summon something insightful or inspiring, or at least comprehensible from inside, which really isn't there. Yet I will eventually and aggressively stretch down deeper and yank out the first idea in reach, bring it to the surface, hastily splatter it onto the page or pound it into the screen, and then read it back with disdain and disgust and toss it to the trash pile. I won't actually get rid of it, just keep it in purgatory, festering in a pile of smoldering putrid contempt. And then I'll forget about it. I'll step back into the cyclone rotation of the world and carry on as if it never happened, living to whatever extent I'm currently enraptured in. And one day, while cleaning house or desktop, I'll revisit the trash bin and discover my love still there, in ever-present patience and anxiety, teetering on the brink of extinction, longing for me to take it back, clean it up, polish it, accept it, love it. I'll remove it from the bin, read it, wonder why I ever got rid of it, and fall in love all over again.
Dang. Very nice, very nice, very nice.
Thanks, man.
I like that a
Episode
lot.
2 poem.
Episode 2 poem. That's got to be the official title when we do something special with it. No, that was so good. I could hear the struggle, the internal struggle with that a lot. Mm-hmm. I really like that. As you were reading all that, I was like, man, I relate with that. I relate with that. I relate with that.
It's true, man. There's sometimes that's all I want to do is write. And then sometimes like the absolute last thing I want to do is sit down and try and force something out, you know?
Yeah.
So
crazy. All right. So yeah, those are our poems with the prompt. Also, thank you to Hogan Burleigh for the prompt last week. So hope you are happy with the finished product that we did. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about our poems and the inspiration for it, how you decided to come up with that. So yeah, what was your inspiration for that? Obviously, I think I know what your inspiration for that was.
It's pretty obvious.
How did it feel writing it? Give us some details.
I think for me, obviously this one is like having to sit down and force something. And usually forcing something is like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes it's the worst thing you can do is force it. But at the same time, you have to. Like you don't, there are some times where you don't get the luxury of just waiting for inspiration. You have to make it happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's a common thing in art in general, especially if you do it for a living. You don't always have the luxury, especially writers, you don't have the luxury of just waiting for something to come. But there is something about finding a point that you can like begin.
Yeah.
And then just let it go from there. And for me, most of the time, writing is just like finding an opening line or something. And then sometimes maybe finding an ending point, but have nothing in the middle. And you just start and you just kind of like wade through the feelings and the emotion and just write it out. And then sometimes you just kind of see where it ends up. Other times you have like a beginning point and an ending point, and you're just trying to bring them both together.
Yeah.
And this one is obviously like the anguish of having to write something or needing to feeling the need to create, but just not having the words. And at the same time, like loving the process of not wanting to create, but at the same time, like the challenge of I need to create something. And out of that, you kind of like fall in love with the challenge over and over again, I guess, because it never really, like, it's always a challenge. It never really goes away. Sometimes it flows really good. It just comes out of you. Like it just, like you just start writing, you can't stop, and then it goes. And then other times you're like, if I can just get to this point, then I'll be good. And you just kind of like force it until it gets there. And sometimes forcing it actually enhances your senses to the point where you start, like, you just have things start coming out that you didn't know were there.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I think that's kind of the beautiful thing about having to force yourself into the thing, the writing process. Most of the time for me, I'm just like fleshing out an idea or a thought or an emotion. I don't know what I'm going to say or where it's going to go, but I know that the emotion is the agony of writing and the love for writing.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? How do I flesh that out? For me, usually when I start writing a piece, especially like this, I will start writing and I won't, and this is kind of in general what you should do. Like I will just write. I won't try and stop and edit. I won't try and like
I have
reword stuff. I will, like, if I can't think of the word that I want to use, I'll just write the basic word down and I'll underline it or highlight it or something and just go on and just get everything out, get as many words out as I can, try to capture the overall emotion of the feeling. And then I won't look at it. I'll let it sit for a day or two and I'll come back and then I'll look at those words that I highlighted or underlined and I'll go and find something that fits that, or I'll go to the thesaurus and try to find an alternative for that.
Yeah.
And I won't do it in the moment. And I think that's what you should do. I think you should just get it all out, let it sit for a while and come back and then go through it and prune it and whittle it down to the most descriptive that you can make it in as few words as possible. And usually for me, the writing process is like 15 to 30 minutes.
Okay.
If I'm doing poetry, because
Is that what you give yourself, or is that in those 15, 30 minutes you feel like there's nothing more I can give?
That's usually what it takes. Like usually it's between 15 to 30 minutes, and I'm just kind of just getting it out, letting it see where it goes. And for poetry anyway, for other writing, it's more laborious, because if you're writing a story or if you're writing an article or an essay or something like that, obviously you have to have like thought, structure, and your resources that you list for the conclusions you come to and all that kind of stuff. So that's more laborious. But for poetry, it's mainly just the emotional aspect. I just want to convey the emotion as descriptively or as relatable as I can. And I just go until I feel either I've reached the point I want to get to, or I just don't have anything else to say that's going to add value to the piece. And for some reason, it's usually within 30 minutes, and then I'm done, or I'll stop and I'll come back. There have been times where I've written, and in that 15, 30 minute time frame, and then I'm just like, I don't know where this is going. I'll set it aside, and then I'll come back to it later, a day or two later, or a week later or something, and pick up where I left off, or add, or I'll delete a whole stanza and just like take it out because it didn't need to be there. Yeah. And then I'll go reword some other stuff to give it description. But usually it's like I just have like a starting point, and I just kind of go from there and let it breathe. Yeah. And the rhyme scheme thing for me is like, it has to be very intentional for the meaning. And otherwise, if you're just writing for rhyme scheme, that you have to be very, very good for that. Otherwise, it sounds hokey.
I would say it comes off super cheesy if you're trying to force the rhyming and not letting it flow naturally.
If you're reading a poem and it's sing-song in your head, like I instantly just want to like check out, because I'm like, really? Yeah. But if
roses are red, violets are blue, why are you doing this? I'm going to shoot you.
If it's like done well, if you're reading like classic poets who that was their thing, and that's the era, or that's the tradition, or that's the style of the time, and it's done well, that's like the most impactful. But when you're reading like a modern poet who's trying to adopt a rhyme scheme, and they're using a subject that's just general or modern or something, you're reaching, because you have to make everything rhyme. And so you end up with predictability.
Oh, totally. And that just doesn't,
that's what kind of I check out with. And I think a lot of people check out with. And so the only way that I will try to do rhyme scheme, and I've had that happen before, where you just start off with something and somehow it fits, and you find in words that you reach. That's a good way to do it. But most of the time it's just a free verse thing. And within that you can create a cadence. Yeah. If you need to. But most of the time it's just like sitting down, free verse, and just seeing where it goes from a starting point, or trying to reach the ending point that you have in your head that you want to reach,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. 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 And I'm definitely guilty of that a lot in my first writing. And, I still fall into that trap sometimes of like, why am I trying to force these rhymes to happen, or force this style to happen? And so, now I've gotten to the point where I will just write. And if it comes out, great, it comes out. And if I haven't rhymed for, 3 sections, cool. Whatever. It just kind of, it's at the point now, it's just whatever comes out naturally. I think that's the biggest thing, is just let it come naturally.
It's really freeing because when I first started doing it, it was the same way. I thought it had to rhyme. I thought I had to be creative in that structure and only in that structure. And it's so cheesy. It's so bad. And you can just see yourself forcing things that are not fun to read. And when you kind of realize, it doesn't have to be that way. Poetry doesn't have to be limited to this one style or these 3 different forms of verse and rhyme and meter. And then after that, it just becomes freeing. Then it's like anything 100%. Can be poetry, like anything.
And you'll be surprised that the things you were trying to force yourself to do eventually come out naturally without you realizing it. Yeah. Heck yeah. Well, that was really good, man. Just you hit a lot about what I feel a lot of people struggle with, and and just the act of writing itself is a burden or a lovely thing. It's beautiful and deadly at the same time. Yes. Yeah. So with mine, obviously we we were talking about either the power of language or the act of writing, and both of us took the act of writing side of that prompt, you know, and so I kind of wanted to put a twist on that with mine. And so instead of talking about, you know, from my point of view with writing, I wanted to take the point of view of characters in a story as the story is being written. So that's kind of the story behind what this poem was about. Like in the line where it talks about, I can hear the turning of pages above me and the smell of ink fills the air. It's like this awareness coming to the characters of the story.
Yeah.
It's like my memories were gone. Now they're here. I'm hearing these abstract noises. I can smell fresh ink in the air. And so you're seeing the author's work from the character's point of view in the poem. And I kind of wanted to try something different, you know, go with that twist on it. Because I feel like a lot of times what I do with my writers, I try to take a twist of what you would expect, you know, to happen. And so I wanted to get from that point of view, and the fact of, you know, this character's story only goes so far in the book, but the girl continues on.
Yeah.
And now he's left with this loss of this girl whose story continued on, and his story ended, and his character is never mentioned again. He was just this side character, and you're seeing it from his point of view, who was wondering why the person he loved is now gone, and he's basically, his story's been erased from that point forward. Yeah. You know, and so that's kind of the twist I took on that. And so the process I took for writing this one, so I do this weird thing sometimes where I will throw my headphones on and I'll listen to music while I'm writing, which I know can be a weird thing for a lot of people. You know, a lot of people like silence or the outdoors, you know, especially when you're writing, because as you're writing, you'll have words going on in your head if you listen to music, and that can kind of either mess up or it could help. Yeah. You know, you're writing. For sure. So I tend to sometimes I'll throw some music on while I'm kind of getting myself prepared to write. Not necessarily for like the inspiration from the lyrics, but more to get myself pumped up from the music and just the feeling and like feeling cadences in the music. And I feel like that sometimes helps me with my beats. In the
your
writing.
brain waves going. Yeah, totally.
Basically. So that's basically what I did on this. I put on like 3 of my favorite records and kind of just listen. And then that was kind of giving me some of the cadence and stuff for it. And so that was kind of the process I took with this one. And like I said, I wrote it over a course of 2 evenings, because I kind of feel the same way. Is once I reach a point, I don't want to force anymore. Yeah. You know, and so I got to the point where I wrote the first half of it, and I was like, I have no idea where this is going yet still, but I'm going to kind of give it a break, think about it, come back and finish it. And I'm also one of those writers to where unless I specifically have a thought or like, I think this would be cool and I really want to do this, I'm kind of the same way. I will just start writing, no beginning, no end, no middle, and just let the ideas form from there. And then I may write 6 paragraphs and only keep 1. Yeah. And then use that 1 to build upon. You know, I'm like, well, this was cool, but this is all crap. Now I'm just going to keep this section. Totally. You know, and then totally change the direction of this story or this poem and then go from there. Yeah. You know, because I feel like the best thing to do is just vomit on the page and then take what's good and then create from that. My process, anyways, I know that's not what a lot of people do, or definitely not the best for everybody, but I like to word vomit, take that, and then build upon what I think is good. Heck yeah. But I also have the problem of self-editing while I write.
Doing it.
And it's the
hard.
worst, and I cannot get over it. Like, I am aware of it. Every time I go to write, I'm like, I know I'm going to do this. Don't do this, but I still do it. Like, I'll still go line by line. Oh, hold on, I'm going to go back. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to go ahead and change this word now. And then by that time, I could have gotten like 3 more paragraphs out.
It's hard, man, because especially when you're trying to think of things in the moment and you want to be descriptive and you're like, oh, what's a better way to say that? Yeah. And then you think of it and you go back. If I do that too much, I will lose my train of thought and I will not be able to find my direction again. And then the poem, I'll have to like go a different way and it takes on a whole new life. Yeah. So the fact that someone could sit down and do that and actually bring something about through that, that's impressive. Yeah. It's dangerous, but it's impressive. And yeah, man, I really love the way you showed a story, like getting life into it and becoming its own living, breathing thing. And eventually it leaves the writer in the dust, and it becomes a life of its own, and it goes on, and the life that you have given it, it takes and it enhances, and it goes off and becomes its own living, breathing thing.
Yeah.
And I love that. And that's what stories do. Like poetry and stories, when you create, they go on and they outlive you.
Oh, 100%.
And I just love that. I love that concept.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you killed it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
No, this was really fun. I'm super excited to do more of these because, it's definitely challenging. And, we're letting you all into our secret world of how we go about our process and write. And are you a hand writer or are you a digital writer?
As much as I want to be a hand writer, I'm digital. And usually I'm just doing it in notes on my phone.
Okay.
I love the process of sitting down at a computer and like taking the time to open a page and like put stuff out there.
Yeah.
I was a big Google Docs guy for years. I had folders and folders and folders in Google Docs, and I would like sit down and piece stuff together. Now it's just so much easier. I have a thought, I can just open my notes and put it there.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's literally like 90% of the way I write anymore. On the rare occasion that I do write like pen and paper, it's just because I don't have anything else, or I need a moment to like reset my brain and just give myself an escape from the phone. And I want to get one of the old typewriters, not like the is it Cobalt? What's the it's like a gun name.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of the name of it now.
Don't necessarily want one of those like that old, but I want one of the like 80s, 90s electric typewriter that you can plug in and just drop a sheet of paper in and just go after it.
I used to have one of those. Yeah.
I want one of those because I feel like that would make the process enjoyable, and it would actually be cool to see something on the paper, because if you do everything digitally and you go back and erase and do all that stuff, like that stuff, that's gone. Like once you don't like something and you take it away, it's gone forever.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of like, if I don't like something, crossing it out and moving down to the next line, or just taking that page out and setting it aside.
Yeah.
It's still there. I can go back to it. But if you do it digitally, and then a lot of times I'll write something and I don't like it, and I'll just go down and write something else. I won't erase it because I might go back to it later or tie it back in. But I don't know. I just like the process of sitting down and writing physically. You don't always have the time or luxury to do that.
So I have a mint condition 1950s Royal typewriter down in my basement right now.
Love that. That's awesome. Do you
it's
use
like
it?
in perfect condition. I'm gonna start using it again.
Okay.
It was actually a gift from Lauren's grandmother.
Yeah.
So I need to bust it out. We should maybe type some of these up and like sign them and
Dude,
sell
we totally
them.
should. I've seen people do that on Etsy and stuff. They do like typed poems, and they'll read them, and then you can go to their shop
listeners,
and buy
if that's something you want, let us know.
Let us know.
We will totally type up on an old 1950s typewriter some of these poems and sign them for you all.
That would be sick, dude. I would love that.
Yeah.
We should totally do that.
Yeah. So typically when it comes to poetry, I like to handwrite. And then for like the novel and stuff I'm working on, I like to. So I'm also a huge Google Docs guy. I know you stepped away from it. I still love to use Google Docs because I can literally open it from any device and get back to writing. But typically, like parking lot poetry, all of that was handwritten first.
Dang.
Before I typed it all up. But at the same time, I'm also like, I have to literally write all this twice because I handwrote it and then I typed it. But it's just the feeling of handwriting is nice. I
know. There is something really nice about the process of writing it down and then taking that and typing it into. It's a process, and that's enjoyable. If I handwrite, I usually start off really well. Like my handwriting's really nice. After like 3 or 4 lines, then it's just sloppy cursive, and then it just after time, if I write too much, it just becomes illegible. You can't read my writing because I'm just trying to get thoughts out, and I can't write fast enough. So it is a little frustrating after a little bit, but I still, like, if I have the chance, I'll sit down and do it because I love the process. But I agree with you. It's hard to write and then have to turn around and type that into a computer. Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, we did it. No. But no, dude, seriously, I'm glad we got to do those poems. Yes. That was great. I feel like, all right, so now it's time to transition into the second half of this show where we are going to now discuss topics.
Yes.
So every episode, we're also going to, after we read our poems, talk about those, we're going to have some topics that we discuss. And then depending if there's a guest here or not, that'll kind of shape the way we do things. So that's kind of going to be the format is we'll kind of, start off with the poems from the prompt from the previous week. We'll read the poems, discuss the poems, go through all that, and then we'll hit the topic for the last half of the episode. So you all kind of have an idea of what the show format's going to be. And so we decided, why not just jump right into one of the heavier topics, that mercy on ourselves. All creative people, well, not even creative people, just people in general. This is actually a big issue, and something that I deal with, something I know Ben deals with, a lot of people deal with. So what are we going to talk about this week?
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome.
Man, this is a big one for me because I compare myself so hard to other people, and I see people, and it doesn't matter what they're doing. If they're either like extremely good or successful, I cannot help but look at them and be like, ugh, I wish I did that, or I wish I was that 100%, way.
Yeah.
And it's gotten better over the years because it's something that you become aware of and you work on. But that was a big one because comparison for me is like rough. I do it even without thinking, and I'm just constantly doing it. The other aspect of that is if I have some kind of, I don't know, like talent or some type of professional thing that's mine or I do, regardless of how good or like success or whatever, I still feel so inadequate when I'm around other people the same thing. And I will constantly catch myself being like, I don't belong in this circle. Like, what am I doing here? And not gonna lie, even being like, hey Ben, let's do a podcast where we write poetry. I'm like, I'm not good enough to be on that. I don't think I could do that. And then it's like, well, the way that you deal with that is you step back and you take a breath and you remind yourself what you've done, where you've been, who you are. Yeah, you could totally do that. It would be fun. You need to challenge yourself. You've written a book. You've written spoken word pieces. You performed in front of large audiences. Like, you could totally do this. And you almost have to like psych yourself up. Yeah. And, that's a big one. The imposter syndrome thing is real. And if you are not careful, it will keep you from
it is
the things
the only,
that you are supposed to be doing.
Not the only thing, but it's probably the biggest thing that'll stand in the way of you and creating things, imposter syndrome is totally real. And a lot of people, whether you want to admit it or not, we kind of struggle with that, just the feeling that you don't deserve the space that you are in. Yeah. I think that's kind of the best way to put it is you feel like you don't deserve where you are at. Same thing with my first book. It took me over 10 years to publish it, Yeah. That was just because of, I just didn't feel like I was a writer, or I just felt like I don't know what I'm doing, and just the fear of, well, it's probably going to be crap, and I don't take rejection well because I've dealt with a lot of rejection in my life, and so and then you put it out there and it gets well received, right? But what happens when it gets well received? You're like, is everyone just lying to me? Yeah. Like,
are they just being nice?
Are they just being
polite?
nice? Like, is this like one of those, your mom's like, oh, honey, you have a great voice. You should do American Idol. And then you actually have the worst voice on there. Yeah. Is it one of those scenarios, and then it's like, well, how do I follow it up? Do I do another book? Do I, what, do I do something else? And then you realize, okay, that did well, but why do I still feel like I'm not a writer or I'm not this,
It doesn't feel real. And if you let yourself, you will convince yourself maybe that was just a fluke, or maybe
Oh, yeah.
that's just everyone being nice, like you said. Yeah. The thing for me is like the thoughts of inadequacy will keep me from actually doing the thing. If I have an idea to do something, I will battle like, who am I to do that? There are way better people at that stuff. Why would I even try to do that? I'm going to put myself up against those people. No, that's not. And then you have the idea and then it's like, oh, this is a great idea. And then you start to get into it and you think about it and you're like, what am I doing? I'm not qualified to do this.
Yeah.
And that's a big area, is like, before you even get started.
Who is qualified?
Exactly.
You know, like, how
none of
do
us
you
know
think,
what we're doing.
Yeah. When we think of people who are qualified, how do they get there? Obviously they worked for it. Or who knows how they got there, but like, who's really qualified? You know, we're all just guests on this planet trying to live our best life, you know,
for sure.
And if we're not taking those chances.
Well, and that's the danger too of who you idolize.
Yeah.
If you idolize celebrities, or if you idolize one-hit wonders, you will have that keep you from pursuing your goals if you are not like grounded, because those people, regardless of how good or bad they are, have 9 times out of 10 have inside connections that average people don't have.
Yeah.
If you look back at movie genealogies or like actor biographies and stuff, they're all intertwined somehow. Their dad was in a show, or their mother was here, or
all who you know.
Their grandfather was rich, or this person was that, you know, and then you become to realize like, oh, they're all intertwined. There's no way an average person can achieve that level of fame. And then to some degree, that's kind of freeing, because you're like, oh, okay, well, I don't have to worry, you know.
Yeah.
If your goal is to be famous, then you have to understand you are going to have to like work your tail off regardless of what other people think. And you're going to have to get up and do it and fight and fall and do it again. And you may never become successful, or you just decide, oh, okay, well, I'll never be that, so I'm just going to do this for myself.
Yeah.
I think both are decent options, because you can fight and struggle and work and work and work and work and work, and maybe you'll make it. Or you can just do it for yourself and do something that you love. And if no one ever sees it, you did it and it satisfies you. And maybe even you might still make it, because someone might find your work and be like, this guy's pretty good.
Yeah,
I want to
exactly.
publish this.
And the thing is, there's somebody out there who's going to absolutely love the thing that you make.
Yes.
Whether you think it's the worst thing in the world or not, there's an audience for everybody. And no matter what it is you make, there's somebody that's going to love it out there. It could be one person. It could be millions of people. It just depends, you know, and why miss that opportunity? You know, and just feeling like you're inadequate will stop you from so much. Here's a funny story about imposter syndrome.
Sweet.
So, as you know, and listeners, you're going to learn more about that too, so I do voice acting and like voiceovers and stuff, right? And so I recently, not this last year, but it's been, trying to think how long it's been. Has it been a year already? Anyways, so I got booked for this gig, right? So there was a call out for this audio drama, this book series audio drama that I was like, ooh, awesome, I want to do that. And so I, put a call out, basically was like, hey, I want to, be a part of this. So I got an audition, which is great. So I did a voice audition for this, and I thought it was going to be some kind of small gig, and so I was like, yeah, this would be great, kind of get my feet wet, because I mainly did like commercials and stuff like that, and not actual on the voice acting side of it, just more on the commercial side of it. And so I was like, yeah, I really want to like more of the acting side of it.
Yeah.
And so I put the call out, got the audition, and not only did I get the audition, I booked one of the main leads.
Oh.
And so I got one of the co-main leads is this brother and sister that are the leads of this book. And it's a 3-book series. And we just finished recording season 2 of it, and it's going to be released. I don't know how much I can say about it, but towards the end of this year, later this year, it's going to be released. Season 1, which is book 1, will be released, and then we finished recording season 2, and there's, I think, going to be a season 3. And so anyways, so when I found out I got the gig, I was like, awesome, and I was like, I got one of the main leads. This is great. And so the director, her name is Callie Sue, which we're definitely going to get her on the show.
Sweet.
She's amazing.
Yes.
Good friend of mine. And so I did have some connection because I knew she's married to a musician that I knew growing up. And so I kind of knew her a little bit. I only had met her a couple times. And so I was like, and I knew she was involved. So I was like, oh, I kind of know someone who's involved. So I wanted to shoot my shot here. So I auditioned and everything. And so she's the director of it. And so she wanted to put together me, the co-lead, and this other actor to do basically like a live direction. So we got on Zoom, and then we were going to go over some lines, and she's going to give us some direction of like how she wanted the characters to go. And so me thinking this was just some kind of small time, project, I was like, it's going to be great. So I get on the call. I met these people for the first time. The girl, her name is Robin. The other guy, his name is Matt. I had never met them before and, met them. And so we kind of ran over some lines, had some fun, just kind of talked about the direction of the characters. I'm like, man, these guys are really good. Yeah. Like Matt and Robin, they're really awesome. This is going to be fun to work with them. And so I was really nervous because I hadn't done a live direction on Zoom, doing voice acting, acting out your character and stuff. And then when we got off the call, I was like, I'm going to look these people up.
Oh, no.
So I looked them up. And so Robin, she is just a badass musician, voice actor, actress living out in Utah. And I was like, oh, she's done like commercials. She's got like
she's
really
legit.
Awesome selling like CD, like music. She plays these great shows. And I'm like, okay, so, she's pretty cool. And then Matt, his name is Matt Burke. I looked him up and I'm like, this dude's been in like over 30 movies.
Dang.
Like he's done scenes with huge actors.
That's
like,
awesome.
I own movies this guy has been in. He does voice. He has an acting school where he teaches acting. I'm like,
wow.
If I would have known that they were in it, I probably would have not hopped on that Zoom call.
Yeah.
Because I would have been like, there is no way I can be with these guys on this show.
Man.
Because I'm like coming in fresh and these are like veteran actors and stuff. So afterwards, it's like, I'm really glad I did not look them up before I got in on that Zoom call. And then even then I was like, what are they going to think of my acting, when they hear my stuff? And I was like, do I even feel like I can actually be a part of this project? Dude. And so I started getting all that imposter syndrome coming on. I'm like, I have no credits, for like here. Voice acting. Like I've done commercials and stuff, and I've done like theater and stuff, when I was younger. And I was like, I don't belong with these awesome people. But I pushed through, I got it. And now we're on season 2. We're going to be doing season 3 soon, and it'll be coming out to the public later this year as this huge like audio drama that like is professionally produced. They're like original scores, so many great voice actors in it. And I was like, I would have not done that if I would have known, but I'm glad I did. And Imposter Syndrome could have kept me from doing this really awesome, cool project where I get to play a really awesome character. But I'm so glad I talked myself down. Man. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this anyways. And honestly, it pushed me harder. I was like, I'm going to step it up because I'm going to prove that I belong
professionals
here.
At this
I'm
point.
With professionals at this point. So I'm going to step up my game and I'm going to make sure that I do this the best of my ability.
100%, man. That's the thing. Like if you are not challenging yourself, you're not going to grow. And before you can ever step into those realms, you have to have had enough time with yourself to understand either your voice or your giftings or your like what your passion is and develop that. Yeah. And you have to allow your talents and your gifts to make room for you. Yeah. And sometimes that happens really quickly and sometimes it takes years. Like people sit in the darkness of their bedroom writing or speaking lines or reading or watching and researching. And that's why you see so many like great actors and actresses taking off in their like 40s or 50s. Yeah. Because they have trusted the process and like they've put in the work. And regardless of how much they fail or don't fail. And I know I said earlier, oh yeah, all celebrities are connected or whatever. Yeah. Not all,
No,
obviously.
exactly. Yeah.
But
yeah.
like anything is possible. And if you will just continue and press on and continue doing the work and continue just following where that leads you, and challenging yourself in that, it's amazing the things that will open up for you.
Yeah.
Even when no one's reading, even when no one's listening, even when no one's watching, someone at some point is going to come across something or read something or hear something. And you just have to stay true to that desire.
Yeah.
Because if you allow the syndrome to hold you back, you are like canceling out all these potential opportunities that you may have had you just written the poem or did the audition or, and I think that's a big lesson that we have to learn is regardless of how inadequate you feel, regardless of how unprofessional or green or whatever you feel, you have to just kind of like keep putting one foot in front of the other. And eventually those things, like you're going to find something that's going to accept you or open up for you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think like if you're a writer, you need to tell your story. If you're an artist, you need to paint your picture.
Yeah.
You need to do your art because the world needs it. Whether you think so or not, or you feel like you're not deserving of it, the world needs your art. The world needs your songs.
Yes.
They need your story, your poem, whatever it is it might be. They need your food.
Yes.
If you're a chef, they need your food.
Yes.
If you're an IT guy, they need your expertise. They need you to show up to do your work. The world needs you to step out your comfort zone and produce the thing that's inside of you.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes this world go round. We're all born with some purpose, some passion, some desire that just needs to be released into the world. We don't need a dull, boring society. We need people to pour out, and release their things.
Especially now because with the availability of reach, with the way like there's something out there for everyone.
Oh yeah.
Through social media platforms and stuff, like the demand for good quality art is high and it's growing. The need for good original creativity is growing because of that. There's an audience for everything, like we've said, and that means there is a greater need that's just going to keep growing and growing and growing because we're seeing it more in entertainment and songwriting and writing and creativity and poetry and all that. We're seeing a lot more formula and a lot less originality. And that's kind of been the case over the years, but you just see culture shifting into formulas that are repeatable and they produce income and they produce revenue and all that stuff.
And you see that in the movies.
Oh yeah. So
that's
bad.
Like all it is right now. Remake after remake after this.
All the remakes and the shallow plot lines and, it starts off the same person with a big dream and a bully comes along and tells them they can't do it. And they go on a quest to prove the bully wrong. And at the end of the movie, everyone's like, oh, you're a hero. And, that's cool. Like, that's good. But, there needs to be a new storyline. There needs to be a new plot twist. There needs to be some new voice or something like that. And if you don't step out and take your shot and write that story or write that poem or sing that song or take that audition, the world is going to miss out on your story. It's going to miss out on you. And it may take you several years to get there, to hone your voice, but the demand is there and the need is great.
Oh, 100%.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, and I know we're talking mostly about like the creative side and the arts when it comes to imposter syndrome. But I mean, this is something that relates even in the business world,
Yes.
Especially like say you get promoted to a management position, and you're just like all of a sudden these fears and dread of, oh no, I'm now responsible for people. I am now responsible for shifts and money and locking and closing the shop up or whatever it is, in your job. And it's like, you get this feeling of, I'm not good enough to be here. Why did I get picked? And so it's something that is in every area of our life, and so it's something to kind of just be aware of, and I was kind of doing some reading on imposter syndrome and just kind of what the old internet had to say, because we know how reliable the internet is.
Oh, yes.
But there are some good places on there to look up stuff. But a lot of what I saw is, and I didn't know this until I started doing some readings. I thought imposter syndrome was kind of just the overall arcing thing, but I found out there's actually 5 different types.
Really?
Imposter
I did
syndrome,
not know this.
On multiple like articles and sites and other things that I've read. There are 5 types. I kind of see myself in a few of these types. But so the 5 types of imposter syndrome are the perfectionist.
Yes.
Whose primary focus is on how something is done. This includes how the work is conducted and how it turns out. One minor flaw, and it's just like the end, you know?
Yeah,
The
no
perfectionist
credibility.
is-
Totally.
And then there's the expert, is the knowledge version of the perfectionist. Here, the primary concern is the what and how much, or how, that you can do. Because you expect to know everything, even a minor lack of knowledge denotes failure. So if you don't know everything there is to know about it, that's kind of where that imposter syndrome can get in. And now your focus is on you have to know every little thing, or you're not there yet, you know? Which to me, the expert is kind of one of the things I struggle with, because in my life, ever since growing up, and I know it's going to be this way the rest of my life, I am never going to be an expert on one thing, because I want to do all the things.
Yeah.
I want to write. I want to create art. I want to do music. I want to do video. I want to do graphics design, and I want to act. So I'm never going to be an expert. I'm always just going to have a little of this, a little of that, a little here. And it's going to bug me the rest of my life that I'm like, I know a little bit of everything, but I'm not an expert on one thing.
Yeah, but that's going to mean that you will be very well-rounded.
Yeah.
Like you will have much more experience and expertise than the average person, because you've done more and you've challenged yourself to learn
Or
more.
the older generation will be like, you just wasted your life.
Right.
It's like, no, I've lived life.
You should have gone to college and got a degree.
The third type of imposter syndrome is the soloist. Cares mostly about who completes the task. To make it on the achievement list, it has to be you and you alone, because you think you need to do and figure out everything on your own. Needing help is a sign of failure and evokes shame.
I felt that before.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if any of you listening or watching, please let us know which one of these you relate with, because we would love to have a chat about it. Leave a comment for sure. Then there's the natural genius. Also cares about how and when accomplishments happen. But for you, competence is measured in terms of ease and speed. The fact that you have to struggle to master a subject or skill, or that you're not able to bang out your masterpiece on the first try, equals failure, which evokes shame. It's like the natural talent, but sometimes it's just hard to put things out.
Yeah.
And then last, there is the superhuman. Measures competence based on how many roles they can both juggle and excel in. Falling short in any role as a manager, team member, parent, partner, friend, volunteer, all evoke shame, because they feel they should be able to handle it all perfectly and easily. So the superhuman has to be the one who takes on all the roles and everything. And if they fail at any of them, they're like, oh, nope, not good enough.
Yeah. And if they succeed at 4 and then on the 5th one, they make a mistake, then it's all for nothing, because they're like, doesn't matter, I failed.
And all of it, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like those are the ones who are climbing up like corporate ladders,
Yeah.
and
I could see that.
Or the person who's on every board in the community and is on, in different offices and has different roles throughout. Maybe that's like on your school board or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably that person.
I feel like that's a toxic trait too that's taught. Like if you go to school and you do well in subjects, or you do well in a certain class, but you fail a question on a test, well, you failed the test. Doesn't matter how much you knew, you missed this area.
Yeah.
And so because of that, you're a failure.
And all the other accomplishments that you got right
they don't matter
now.
Yeah. And that can be a really toxic trait, especially in corporate world, because when everything hinges on one aspect, doesn't matter what your track record is, doesn't matter what you have done in the past, you messed this up, so you're not valuable now, because or you have to prove yourself.
Stepping stone, to get there.
So that can be a pretty toxic thing, I would imagine. It would be. The soloist is interesting, because I've been in that position where it's like, this needs to be done, and I don't trust anyone else to do it, or I have to be the one to do it because the pressure's on me to do it. Mm-hmm. And then not being able to do it as good as possible or something. That's a big one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I fall in solos a lot.
It's so funny. Like as you're reading them, I'm just like, man, yeah, totally. Oh man, that one too.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like there's a piece of me in all of those. Yeah. I'm like, I actually deal with that. Okay, I deal with that. I deal with that.
Crazy.
But I think I think like it depends on like if you're a creative person who has a plethora of things they enjoy and do, then I feel like, yeah, you're going to see yourself in those different roles, those different subcategories because of the thing you're doing. But if you are someone who's maybe not on necessarily the creative side, but more of the intellectual side, you know, or I don't know, whatever it is, I feel like you may find yourself in just one of those because that's just your personality type and you stick with what you know. Yeah. You know, and so depending on your personality type, I feel like, yeah, you can either see yourself in all of those or just one specifically. But I feel like as people who are more on the creative side probably will be in more than just one of those categories.
Yeah, because you're going to take on multiple roles at some point. Yeah. If you're trying to create something, you're going to be a director. And if you're trying to write something in that, you're going to be a writer. And you're going to be like the cheerleader, and you're going to be the leader, and you're going to be the trainer, or
the accountant.
The accountants. You're going to be all those things at some point. And yeah, that stuff is real, man.
Oh, 100%.
It's crazy. How do we overcome imposter syndrome? What would you think?
I think the answer is you never do.
You don't?
No, I think the answer is you never do. You just kind of learn how to
recognize it.
Yeah, recognize it, understand when it starts to come up, and then to the best of your ability, understand that you are going to give in sometimes, but just know your worth, know that the world needs your art, know that there's someone out there who's just waiting for you to write that song, who's waiting to read your story, and that they can cry to and laugh to and know that you gave them that life and that feeling, you know. But I don't think you're ever going to be able to overcome imposter syndrome because we're human, for one, and creativity is very emotionally driven. And so our emotions are going to come up a lot. You know, I think the best thing is just you're going to understand when it happens, recognize it, and then just learn to, okay, I see it. I'm going to choose to either overcome it now and then fight the battle the next time it comes. Yeah. Or I just can't right now. I'm going to give in. I'll deal with it later.
That's true, man. Learning to recognize it is most of the problem, I think, because if you don't recognize when it comes up, it just feels like you're having a realization you're not qualified. Yeah. And then the natural inclination is to be like, oh, I'm not going to do this. Yeah. And if you can recognize when that comes on, of the feelings of like, who are you? What makes you think you're the best one to do this? What makes you think these other people, like you're on the same level as them? Those are triggers to be like, you know what? That's not true. I have a place at this table, or I can make a place for myself at this table. I agree with you, man. Just being able to recognize and kind of push through that. That's a big one. You have to be able to like believe in yourself enough to challenge yourself and step out and be willing to take a risk.
Yeah. And I think a big part of it too is learning that you don't have to do it alone. Yeah. You know, and understanding
ask for help.
Yeah. Ask for help, find friends, see a therapist, you know, just whatever it takes to help you understand and realize. And I think a big part of it is to connect with other creative people that you can work with and do things with. Yes. You know, that's the biggest thing, is you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to be the soloist who is trying to do everything on their own. And then when you're struggling with your imposter syndrome, you could be like, go to your friend who also struggles with the same thing. You can struggle together. You know, you don't have to struggle through it alone. So I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than being a creative person surrounded by non-creative, like, people who don't understand, or everything is like black and white, practical, like you need a job, you need to be this way. This is how society works. If you are surrounded by those people, then you need to find an outlet outside of that, or you need to go somewhere else and connect with people that actually understand and relate with you in those ways.
Yeah.
Because that will kill your passion faster than anything else, is having people around you who don't understand, don't appreciate, criticize without any thought put into it, and display ignorance to what true art and creativity really is, because they don't understand it.
Yeah.
That'll kill a creative faster than anything, I feel.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing is, we don't have the answers. We are creative people who struggle with this and are open about it. We struggle with this. We don't have the answers, but
we have experience.
Yeah. We've experienced this. I've experienced this forever. I deal with this on a daily basis. And so, yeah, it's just find those people that care about you and that share the same passions that you can, relate with. And
for sure.
And if this is something you struggle with or have stories, we would love for you to share them with us, please.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we want to also not tell our stories and talk about our issues, or I guess you can call them issues, or just things.
Yeah, totally. What are your struggles? Have you experienced being the creative in the room that no one else understands, or having ideas that people just think are outrageous or don't make sense? What's been your experience? How have you overcome that imposter syndrome? Yeah. When you have been the person in the room with other creatives who have actually done things and you don't feel you have.
Yeah, being a creative person is a very lonely thing.
Yes, it definitely can be.
It can be a very lonely thing, especially when people don't understand your creativity, and you are, like you said, you are the only one in the room who's having these creative thoughts, and it's just draining being around those who are not feeding you that life. So yes, please let us know your stories. We would love to share them on the show. We'll share them on social media. We want this to be a place where we can connect with people. People can connect with us, and we can connect with other creatives and just share our stories.
Absolutely.
Now, this is something that we could probably keep talking another hour on.
Probably.
But we should probably go ahead and wrap this up. We want to kind of keep this on a normal time constraint. But yeah, I think this was great, getting to kind of just dive into this and, talk about something. We may come back to this in the future and talk about this, because I feel like this is something we can just kind of keep on talking about.
I think so too. I think this could channel into other topics. Like this is one of 5 topics that you suggested. The other topics were like community. Like we could totally channel this into good community.
Absolutely.
So.
And if there's topics you want us to tackle on the show too, please. So we want you to give us your prompts, give us your topics, and then we'll talk all things creative, like we said. And remember, you can send those in to TwoPoetsPodcast@gmail.com, and that's 2 with TWO, not the number. So 2PoetsPodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram. Same handle, 2PoetsPodcasts. And on YouTube, where this show is right now, if you want to watch the video, or you can catch us on audio wherever you get, listen to your podcast.
Yes.
So we're going to go ahead and wrap things up, but this means we need to figure out what our prompt is for next week.
Oh yeah, we do.
Yeah.
It's funny that it's cool that we've had people emailing us.
People care.
People have emailed us prompts, but also like, I've had people say like, "Hey, I saw your podcast episode. You guys should do this prompt."
Good.
And I'm like, "Awesome. You should email that so we can talk about it." So that's been pretty cool.
All right. Do you want to pull up a random number generator?
Ooh. Yes.
So tell me how you feel about this. So, we've had some people send in multiple prompts from the same person. So how do you feel about if we draw one from the person who submitted one from the previous week, we'll skip over that to go to a different person. So like if we pick Hogan again this week, maybe we'll skip over that and pick another person.
Yeah,
and then if we
for
pick
sure.
Hogan
So
next week, it's fine. But yeah, so if some random person named Bob picks one, and then the next week we draw another one and it's Bob again. It's like, we won't do Bob 2 weeks in a row. We'll kind of just bounce around.
For sure. What's the max number?
1 through 7 right now.
1 through 7.
We need more prompts, people.
7. That's awesome. Okay, we're going to generate starting now.
I'll let you know if you need to roll again.
Yeah. Okay, number generated is number 3.
I was actually really hoping you picked number 3.
Oh, yeah?
So
okay.
Perfect. This one's going to be a little bit to explain. Okay, this prompt was sent in by Joseph Burleigh.
Oh, that's my brother.
That's your brother. All right, Joe, you're lucky we got yours picked. Okay, so does he go by Joe or Joseph?
Joe.
Joe, okay.
Or Joey.
Or Joey?
Or Joby1 Kenobi.
Oh, so Joby1 Kenobi sent
I don't
this
know. Do you still
in.
do Joby1 Kenobi? I don't know.
Okay, so Joe sent an email to us at TwoPoetsPodcast@gmail.com. And his prompt was, so he found this artist on TikTok who I guess is an amazing singer and has this beautiful sad song because he heard us talking about how we love sad songs.
Yes.
So he was like, hey, you love sad songs. I love sad songs. So what he did was he gave us the chorus to this song.
Okay.
He told us not to listen to the song yet. So we can't go and listen to the song.
I'm glad it's someone I haven't listened to yet.
Yeah, I have not heard of this artist either. So her name is Clara Wadley. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce the last name because I haven't looked it up yet. So Clara Wadley. I'm just going to say Wadley for now. I'm probably saying it wrong. And the song is Radio Angel. The prompt is the chorus, and this is the chorus. We laid her ashes in Los Angeles. The music took her soul. She said, California will kill me. But the day it does, I guarantee they'll play me on the radio. They'll play me on the radio. So our prompt is we have to write a poem or story based on this chorus.
Yes.
And then Joe said, that after we write it, then we could go and listen to the song to see if the direction we took. So this is actually kind of a cool two-way deal. So like we have to write a prompt based on something random and it's a chorus. But then we get to go listen to the song after we write it and see if our thought process was anywhere near, I guess, what the song is about.
This is a great challenge.
So thank you, Joe. So we're excited about that. So that's going to be our prompt for next week, as random as that is.
Also, if you're a fan of Clara, please do not criticize or come at us if we pronounce her name wrong.
I just see it written.
We already know that we haven't heard her and we're already fans of her or them.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see.
So have you heard their music? Let us know what you think about them.
Yeah,
we would love to know.
All right, so we better get on writing this, I guess, right?
I think so.
Yeah, thank y'all so much for hanging out with us. Those of you who are watching on YouTube, those of you who are listening in your car, in your shower, on your exercise bike, wherever you're listening to us.
Yes.
We really appreciate that. We want to hear your prompts, your topics. Send those in or just say hi to us on social media. We really appreciate that. So, yeah, I'm Corey.
I'm Ben.
And we'll see you next week.
Peace.